Today, I'm going to talk to you about how we've helped our clients over the last 3 decades save, and we counted this up, over $117 million in taxes and other savings that we've documented and identified. So we're going to walk you through the process that we've done to do this. But before we get into the process, let me walk you through some basics of money that you need to know. The very first thing I want to make sure you understand for today is that there are 3 types of money, and many of you have never been exposed to this before. So here's the way the 3 types of money work. Number 1 is your accumulated money. That's the one most commonly associated with your brokerage accounts, your 401ks. If you get a new financial advisor, they're the ones telling you, what were you thinking? Who set this up? This is terrible. Garbage. We need to get rid of it and replace it with my stuff, and you'll get a better rate of return. And look, we want to be as efficient with your resources as possible, and we don't want to leave money on the table or take unnecessary risks. But before we get here, we got to talk about your other types of money. The second type is your lifestyle money. And that's the money that the Dave Ramseys and the Susie Ormans talk about. Never go get Starbucks, buy a 20-year-old car and drive it for 40 years, and never eat out and just live like Tibetan monks and don't enjoy any of what you've worked for. Let's cut that out, and then we can put more money here. Some of our clients have a problem, and we need to talk to them about their spending. But by and large, what everybody ignores is this third type of money, which is transferred money. And this is money that you're losing unknowingly and unnecessarily. So we can bring those resources back to the table. And here's the philosophy at Crothers Tax and Financial Solutions. When you lose $1 to tax or any of the other wealth transfers that we're going to talk about in a moment, you don't just lose the dollar, you lose the dollar and everything that that dollar could have made had you put it in your accumulated tank. And at the very least, even if you lose the dollar and stop losing the dollar, even if we don't save it, at least we get to enjoy it. Transferred is no enjoyment, no future savings. It's just gone forever because you weren't optimized financially. So again, a lost dollar here might be $2, $5, $10, $20, depending on how young you are and what you would do with it. So that's the area that you want to get started with. And then, we got to look at these other areas if they're a problem too. Now, what are the biggest areas where people lose money without realizing it? Number 1, taxes. Taxes are massive, particularly if you're a high-income W-2 or you run your own business, whether it's a sole proprietor, S Corp, C Corp. Forbes estimated that the average small business overpays their taxes by $11,000 a year. That 93% of all businesses overpay their taxes by $11,000 a year. They're wrong. Based on our research, it's 95%. And the actual number is $19,551. But stay with me. Let's assume the $11,000 is correct. If for 30 years you didn't overpay that $11,000 and instead you turned around and you invested that money in just an S&P 500 mutual fund and you got 7%, nothing crazy, just 7% in a boring index fund. Over 30 years, that's $1,039,000 that you flushed down the toilet that you could have had to build your future nest egg. I don't think anybody would turn their nose up at an extra $1 million when they retire or go financially independent. But taxes aren't the only one. What if you don't own a business? What if you aren't a high over $250,000 W-2? We've still got 4 other areas. By the way, you can still save money here. You just may not save as much. We had one client today, actually she is mid-6 figures. By where she has her money, we estimated over 20 years, she'd be losing about $187,000. And we gave her one chess move that improves her rate of return, lowers her risk, and eliminates those taxes. So again, all those taxes we get to keep at interest by bringing them back to the table. And she doesn't own a business. What are the other areas? Mortgages are a huge one. This is your largest voluntary payment, and it affects everything. But so many people get it wrong, especially following the advice of so-called financial experts. You want to be very strategic here, and it involves things like big down payment, little down payment, sending extra money aside, rounding up each month. There are decisions that you will make, adjustable rate mortgage, fixed rate mortgage, refinancing, not refinancing, that if you make them intelligently, again, will bring dollars back to the table, transferred money that you were losing otherwise. And now you've got those dollars to put towards your accumulated wealth or your lifestyle money. Retirement is another big area because, again, so many people don't really look at historical tax rates. They don't think about potentially locking up their money for decades, letting Congress have control. So that's something you want to be strategic on. And the two other key areas where people lose money unknowingly and unnecessarily is their kids' education or even their own, whether it's elementary school, private school, college. There's grants and scholarships that most people don't know exist here. And then finally, how you pay for major capital purchases or major capital expenses. And that's simply defined as anything that you can't pay for in full out of your normal monthly cash flow. We deem a major capital purchase, a car, a vacation, a wedding, any of those sorts of things, where you have to kind of finance it or save up for it. By being strategic, you will avoid losing money that you could otherwise keep your hands on. And it doesn't necessarily mean that paying cash is your best route. Again, these are things you want to calculate and think about to determine what's best for your situation. So the way our process works when someone engages with us is, first, we want to step back and look at the big picture of what we're really working for, which for most of my clients is financial independence. Even if they don't necessarily want to retire because they love what they do, it's the idea that you have put enough aside in your accumulated wealth that you can work or not. But if you choose not to work, you will be in position alpha. And position alpha is simply described as having the same or better standard of living that you enjoyed while working, adjusted for inflation, and have reasonable certainty or protections in place so that we know that money will last through your life expectancy, no matter how long that is. That's position alpha. We start by identifying how on or off track a client is for position alpha. Occasionally we invert the process. I'll tell you one exception to that. And then once we've identified whether we're on track or off track, and if we're off track, how far and what we need to do to get back onto track, we analyze that data several different ways. Then we begin to look for where are we losing money unknowingly and unnecessarily, and we look to these areas. The only inversion in our process is if it's a business owner or a high-income W-2, we might go looking for the taxes first because we can't mess around and wait to get position alpha worked out. We'll find and identify the tax savings first, and then we'll come back around, work out position alpha, and then go looking for the rest of things. Let me give you a great analogy, because there's so much misinformation on the internet and on X and on Instagram, and people saying you can do things and people saying you can't do things. And this ETF is better than this stock, and this stock is better than this other thing, and this other thing is better than this. I want to give you guys an analogy. I work and live in Carlsbad, California. If any of you are golfers, I'm right off Palomar Port Road where I'm filming this. Every golf company known to man is like over on the other side of Palomar Port Road. Titleist, Callaway, Ping, Ashworth, all those guys are here. But you can go over there, and if you had to play in the Masters, which is golf Super Bowl, I don't even golf, but I do know that no matter how good your equipment is that you buy from them, carbon fiber, composite, tech, whatever the language is, ultimately it comes down to the skill of the person swinging it to determine who's going to be in the Masters. And so when it comes to money, it's strategy and swing first, and getting all of these pieces right, then we get into where is it being placed that puts you in the best position. So that's our process that we've used to identify $117 million and counting daily. We're going to take credit for another 187 today. And then looking at these other areas and doing it in such a way as to put you into position alpha. Now, over the course of this channel, we are going to be talking about each one of these individually and what best practices are. If you own a business, we're going to be talking about best practices there. So be sure to subscribe to our channel. And also, we put together an entity guide to walk you through there, as well as the most commonly missed deductions. So be sure to check out those videos right now. Subscribe. And if you're ever looking to talk to us and want to see how much you're losing unknowingly and unnecessarily, you need to reach out to us. We'll be happy, myself or one of our team, happy to take care of you. Hope you learned a lot. Don't forget to subscribe.